In my last newsletter, I talked about the new revelations in the Chinese infiltrating our electric grid and installing a lot of high voltage transformers into our electric grid, which is crazy. And I attached Michael Mabey's previous report, his RFI to the Department of Energy that he filed, explaining and laying out the threat, how 10 years ago, there were 0 Chinese transformers in the US electric grid. And because they have the ability to undercut the market and they're willing to probably take a loss by as much as 20 to 30%, they're undercutting South Korea and Germany, who made our high voltage transformers previously. And so now a lot of the electric companies, and we didn't know this till recently, for the last 10 years, have been increasingly every year. And if you read that report, you'll see how quickly they're gaining a market hold in the US. At the beginning, there's 1 or 2 Chinese transformers that were getting delivered. Then there was 8 or 9, 10. Last year, there were 66 transformers from China, and it's growing. That report also discusses the fact that in 2020, in 2019, this company that supplies the US with transformers, JSHP, which is a Chinese company that's registered here in the US and California, we confiscated one of the transformers when it arrived at port, and we took it to Sandia National Laboratory, and it was found that they had installed a backdoor into that transformer. And I forget, he sat on the National Security Council, director of National Security Council under the Trump administration. He later revealed in an interview that they had installed basically an off button on the transformer that could be remotely pushed from China. And the official report on what they found in that transformer is top secret, and they will not release it to the public. But as a result of that discovery, Trump signed an executive order saying, hey, we need to stop using Chinese electronics in our critical infrastructure, not just the electric grid, but our gas line, pipelines, and everything. So he signed that executive order, and then Biden's first day in office, he canceled that executive order. So once again, we are using Chinese equipment, right? So there's indisputable evidence. It's proven. Michael Mabey's done a great job through Freedom of Information requests through NERC and FERC to get this information. He's got a complete listing. The official report is 200-something pages. It's all footnoted. It's all proven how many transformers are being installed in the U.S. electric grid. New York's up to 20% of their electricity supplied by Chinese transformers. Las Vegas, I think, is 30-something%. There's a very critical transformer that's right next to a military base outside of Denver, or forget the city south of it. But so that was very disturbing. That was what my last newsletter was about. So, and then I also discussed in depth Afghanistan and how the $80 billion of US military hardware and 600,000 weapons and MRAPs and helicopters, drones, body armor, 16,000 night vision goggles, all this equipment is going to light the Middle East on fire. That equipment's going to find its way in the hands of terrorists. I forget, I think it was like 20-something thousand mortar rounds. There's just so much equipment that we gave them. They're going to sell a lot of that to Pakistan. They're going to sell the helicopters and the aircraft to Russia because it's got advanced US military systems on that equipment that Russia wants. And then obviously Al-Qaeda is back. They're back in full force in Afghanistan. Operating from there, they're going to have a base of operations, and we are going to see terrorist attacks like we did 20 years ago. So that is coming in our future. Middle East is on fire. Russia's pushing on Ukraine. And then because of this huge debacle that happened in Afghanistan and how bad it was, right? And how bad Biden bungled this. The day after that, one of the big parts of my newsletter was the day after that, China, through their state-sponsored media outlet, warned Taiwan that, hey, we're coming And when we come, look at Afghanistan. The U.S. is not going to defend you. The U.S. is not going to stand with you. We will take your country over within hours, and the U.S. will do nothing about it. So they've been pushing on Taiwan. Of course. They've been pushing on Taiwan for a while now, but because of the weakness of this administration, I fully anticipate in the next couple of years, before they take the risk of Trump or somebody else getting back in office, that they're probably going to invade Taiwan. I think it's just an absolute given. And I think, and I believe that whether they coordinate with Russia or not, but I believe Russia will use that to invade Ukraine at the exact same time, because we're not going to fight a war on two fronts, and we're not going to take on Russia and China at the same time. So, yeah, it's not good. I think the chances of world conflict are rapidly increasing in the very near future. So with that said, I wanted to share a couple articles, and I want to get to the main point. There's a new revelation by Michael Mabey, a new report he's put out, and it's just mind blowing. Okay, so let me share my screen here real quick. Screen. Okay. So first, on kind of Chinese aggression, right? Beijing is rapidly gaining strength. One of the things that kind of little reported is Taiwan, their military puts out a report every year to their legislator to discuss the military. Last year's report said that China has the ability to paralyze Taiwan's anti-air, anti-surface systems and to effectively shut down its ability to launch countermeasures via cyber attacks. Directly after that is this article here talking about China invading Taiwan. This year's white paper is the first to include cognitive warfare and gray zone activity among the raft of potential measures deployed by China. That's talking about war in the electromagnetic spectrum. That's talking about not shooting guns and bullets and direct attacks, but fighting in the gray zone. The PLA, which is the Taiwan's military, wants an offensive, that is low in losses, high in efficiency, fast and decisive, the report notes, describing an attack that would involve area denial, the occupation of outlying islands, and the assassination of Taiwan's political leaders. And then it also discusses right here, this year's report to the PLA includes some of the most alarming illustrations of growing military imbalance across Taiwan Strait. China's electronic warfare capabilities, the document says, can paralyze Taiwan's air defenses, command of sea and counterattacking systems. The PLA's soft and hard electronic attacks, as well as signal jamming and masking abilities, now reach west of the first island chain, the report said, adding that China's cyber attacks during a potential offensive would present a huge threat to Taiwan. China already told them that. We're going to take over within hours. There's nothing you can do to stop us. Something else China is doing. Their president has recently come out. This was just a couple days ago, and he was giving a speech to, I think, some college students or anything, but to discard their illusions about having an easy life and dare to struggle. He's warning the Chinese people basically that risks and challenges we face are increasing. About the need to desire to fight to protect national security coming amid ongoing tensions with the United States. He's warning the Chinese that U.S. and Chinese are going to be at it, and that the Chinese people need to be ready for the struggle. They are growing their military by leaps and bounds. Their military is superior to ours at this point. They did an exercise between Taiwan and China and how the U.S. would intervene. And even our own admiral, even the own head that did the wargaming between China and the US said that we got creamed, that we got our clocks cleaned. So move on to that. Another story a couple days ago, China bans men it sees as not masculine enough from TV. So China is strengthening their military. There's a bunch of things that they recently passed. They're increasing their view on socialism and the need for socialist leadership. They're banning effeminate men from TV because of this whole thing. We need to be men. We need to prepare for war, essentially. They just passed a law that bans children from playing more than 3 hours of video games each week, and they're not allowed to play any during the weekday. Compare that to the US. Compare that to what we're doing in our military, where we're teaching critical race theory, and we're doing providing transgender surgeries for our military men, and a softer, kinder military. That's not what's happening over there. A couple days later, China strengthens its claims over disputed waters. I don't know why that video is playing. China strengthens claims over disputed waters with new maritime law against foreign ships. So they are claiming the South China Sea in between South China and Taiwan, and they are saying that is it's no longer international waters, because I think once a year we drive a carrier fleet in between Taiwan and China just to let them know what's up. China just passed a law which we in NATO and the US is saying is not right. It's against international law, but they did it anyway, and they're requiring any ship that travels through those waters to basically report their call sign, report their cargo, and they are taking control of that sea area. So I don't know what will become of this. Are we going to drive a carrier fleet through there? Are we going to risk rising tensions with them? And that moves me to the report. Okay, so the last report that I discussed was Michael Mabey's report to the Department of Energy. And this is a report to FERC. Okay, so he starts out in here by discussing the same information before, how there's just more and more Chinese transformers finding their way. And here's the list. So here's what I was telling you. Back in 2006, it was 2, and then 1, and then 6, 13, 18, 22, 47. And this year, 66 transformers from China, okay? So they're increasing market share. And then it goes on to discuss JSHP Transformer Company. That's in California. That's where these transformers are coming through, okay? This is important to remember, JSHP, and this is from their website. This is showing their transformers that they're delivering throughout the country. They're not even hiding it. They're proud of the fact. So JSHP Transformer Company, it stands for Jingsu Hung Pai Transformer Company, okay? And the transformers are made by Jingsu Hung Pai Transformer Company in China. So it's the same name, and they sell those transformers. And this JSHP is an American company, but there's a JSHP Chinese company that they fall under, right? And so these are where these transformers, and it was a JSHP transformer that we confiscated at port that we found the back door in, and we're still allowing them to put transformers into our electric grid, which is just insane. So that's what I discussed last time. So here's the new information, okay? So in the interview I did with Michael Mabey, if you haven't seen, I'll put the link down below. I did an hour-long interview with Michael Mabey last Saturday, discussing a lot of this, and he hinted at he had a new revelations, new stuff that he was going to be releasing soon, and this is it, okay? So we now know that JSHP is a direct line to the government, their state-sponsored company from China, okay? So it's going to take me a little bit, but I'm going to read through this, okay? So behind many of the US imports of Chinese manufactured transformers and other equipment and components is a company called Doubletree Systems. So we talked about JSHP. Now we're talking about Doubletree Systems, okay, which makes grid monitoring software, and they're like a security company for grid resiliency, right? And if we go down through here, there's evidence that the government, the People's Republic of China, has ownership and control interest in Doubletree Systems and JSHP. Okay, so Michael Mabey, every one of these points is footnoted. He did a bunch of research and he found this information out. So Doubletree Systems and JSHP, okay, are linked. They act together as exclusive partners. So Doubletree Systems acts as an exclusive partner of JSHP. So here are the footnotes. Jiangsu Hangpai Transformer Company in America here, who manufactures transformer in the USCs, is located in the People's Republic of China. Okay, that's where the transformer company is. The USA version of that company is registered in California on December 5th, 2008. The US company is a subsidiary of JSHP USA, is a subsidiary of JSHP China, right? I mean, same name, same company, selling their equipment, right? And the CEO, and so here's where it gets interesting. The CEO and the general manager of the US JHSP is a guy named Young-King Kai. Okay, we're going to refer to him as Jim Kai because that's what he calls himself here in America, right? So Jim Kai is the CEO and general manager of JSHP Transformer USA. Another officer at JSHP USA is Hung-King Kine, who's also listed, his address is listed at the same address in China as JSHP in China. So that's his mailing address, right? Doubletree Systems was registered in California on February 9th, 2000, okay? The CEO of Doubletree Systems is none other than Jim Kai. So Jim Kai is the CEO of JSHP. Jim Kai is the CEO of Doubletree Systems, okay? The address in California for Doubletree Systems is the exact same as the address for JSHP. Okay, they operate out of the same office. Numerous documents he found on Doubletree's website identifies Doubletree Systems as an XJ Group company, and that's Zhuji Group. That's a Chinese company. Okay, so XJ Group owns Doubletree Systems and JSHP, and they're out of China, right? Another page on Doubletree Systems website shows that the XJ Group, okay, which is their parent company, and the Chinese state grid signed a cooperative structure agreement through China Electric Power Research Institute. Based on the agreement, the China state grid, the Chinese state government now has acquired 100% share of the XJ Group and will become the sole owner. So the Chinese government bought the parent company of JSHP and Doubletree Systems. XJ Group's website says that XJ Group Corporation directly subordinate to the State Grid Corporation of China. The Chinese own their electric grid, right? And it's a high-tech modern industry group focused on electric power, automation, and intelligent manufacturing. Keep that in mind. So the Chinese government, okay, owns the company that are selling our transformers in this country. And Doubletree Systems. We're gonna get to Doubletree Systems in a second. So this guy, Jim Kai, who's the CEO of both companies, he's from China, okay? His LinkedIn profile says that he is a director. He's also the director of CEPRI, which is China Electric Power Research Institute. So we have EPRI here in America. They have CEPRI over in China, okay? He's also the director of CEPRI in China, okay? Which is also owned by the Chinese government. He's the president of Doubletree Systems and the president manager of JSHP in America. Okay. So there's a clear connection here between all these. And then everything here is footnoted. All Chinese companies have an obligation. So here's where it gets interesting. So a lot of people don't realize that all Chinese companies have an obligation under the 2017 Chinese National Intelligence Law to support, assist, and cooperate with state intelligence work. Moreover, under Chinese 2014 counter-espionage law, a company may not refuse the Chinese government when asked for information. And so Lawfare Institute had this analysis. It says the intelligence law, by contrast, repeatedly obliges individuals, organizations, and institutions to assist the public security and state security officials in carrying out a wide array of intelligence work, okay? They're required by law to assist the Chinese government with their intelligence work. Not shocking that their equipment has off buttons in it, right? So Doubletree Systems not only imports and markets Chinese manufactured transformers, okay, and other equipment in the US, but it sells a variety. So it's not just transformers we're talking about now. They sell a variety of grid protection and monitoring products, which are all throughout our system, including substation monitoring systems, substation automation systems. They sell wide area measurement systems, generating testing and model validation, grid protection and monitoring products, special protection systems, transfer limits monitoring, and consulting. Okay, so they do consulting work with grid security, right? We don't have a list yet of all this equipment that's been sold to the US since 2000. Because we're not even talking about transformers. We're talking about all the equipment for grid monitoring, automation, all this stuff, right? So there's a vendor list from our EPRI here from the 2015 Distributech Conference and Exhibition. So this is 6 years ago, and Doubletree held itself out as collaborating, working together with EPRI in our country to help the industry with critical infrastructure protection standards through their Doubletree Substation Network Sentinel products, right? In other words, an entity owned and controlled by the People's Republic of China, which is actively hacking our US energy sector, which is infiltrating our electric grid with Chinese transformers, is also helping our electric grid to comply with critical infrastructure protection standards. So in a quote from this conference, it says, network security, a kickoff meeting was held on the floor of Distributech for a group of vendors currently participating in the protective measures for security systems project, which involves validating mapping of network security events. Okay, vendors currently engaged in this project include Cisco, RuggedCom, OCSoft, Doubletree Systems, and Radiflow. Doubletree Systems. And there's other vendors that are interested, including Cisco, Schneider, and a couple others. So the project will be driven by use cases developed in 2014, proof of concept, blah, 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 and demonstrated to be developed and demonstrated in EPRI's Cyber Security Research Lab. Okay, so this Doubletree Systems is involved in our cybersecurity and grid automation, selling products inside the US for the last 20 years. Okay, they're working on our critical infrastructure standards in our own country. This guy that's a registered agent of a company in China, right? And Michael Bay writes, it's a great concern that the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party is marketing equipment and systems to the same US critical infrastructures that multiple US government agencies have confirmed for years, for decades, are the target of China's past and present cyber espionage, probing, and cyber attacks. This raises security concerns. There are no US government requirements or mandatory reliability standards that such equipment or systems be checked for malware and backdoors, okay? So he concludes with, in some, it appears that not only are we importing transformers from China, we are employing grid monitoring systems and security systems that have a direct tie to the People's Republic of China, okay? This is insane. Literally, this has been out. He's put this information out 2 weeks ago. I have not seen a single news story in the Main Street News. JSHP controlled 20% of New York's electric grid. If they pulled that, if they turned that off, it would crash the system, without doubt. They control Las Vegas. They control that military base in Denver, and they're growing by leaps and bounds. So this idea that, oh, you know, they're not a threat, you know, mutually assured destruction. China's ramping up the rhetoric. They're turning their men into men. They are, after Afghanistan, they've taken over the South Chinese Sea. They've warned Taiwan, we're coming for you. You're going to fold and America's not coming to help you. Things are escalating very quickly. with China. And to say, oh, well, they wouldn't black out a city. They've been doing it for years. The amount of blackouts that have been happening in the term of warfare is rising and rising. China or Russia taking out Ukraine's electric grid, and they've never taken ownership of it. They've denied it. China blacked out Mumbai. So here, China appears to warn India. This New York Times. Okay, I think it was February 18th or something, or whatever it was. That China is appearing to warn India. This was back when China and India were kind of going at it. Push too hard, and the lights could go out in your country. So I can't pull up the article right now because it's on New York Times. I don't have a membership, but I have another copy of it. And then 3 days later, India's Mumbai suffers a blackout. Coincidence? I think not. China says, wow, we didn't do it. Okay. And this is from a year ago. China is eyeing high-tech surprise Pearl Harbor attack on the U.S. electric grid using stolen American technology, report claims. And then, I mean, obviously they have other equipment in our systems. Okay. So, yeah. This idea that a blackout is some rare event or it's not likely, it's highly likely in our near future. That is where warfare is going. That is where the next battle is going to be fought. It's going to be by blacking out each other's country, because you can stand back and be like, I don't know, not sure how that happened. Maybe somebody tripped over an electric outlet, right? So with conventional warfare, you fire missiles, you fire rocket. I mean, that can be tracked, and yeah, it's very disturbing. There are difficult times coming for this country. It is very likely, in my opinion, I get asked this a lot. Well, what's the likelihood? You know, you have the solar flare risk. You have the cyber attack. We've just been talking about cyber attacks and how they're growing by leaps and bounds. The physical attack against the electric grid. Terrorists, I have a report showing how the increase in terrorism attacks against physical attacks against electric grids are rapidly on the increase, like this, over the last 10 years. And how that's a common thing. Well, we just armed our enemy, a terrorist group in the Middle East. To think they're not going to come across our southern border, which is like Swiss cheese right now, and anybody can walk across the border at this point with the current administration, and they're not stopping immigration. After that last attack on the Metcalf power station, the physical attack, I think it was Wall Street Journal reported, and there was information released that if they did that at 9 substations at the same time, they could take down the entire U.S. power grid. So the physical attack threat is growing with Afghanistan and what just happened there. The EMP threat is always there. And this whole, you know, if we start blacking out each other's countries and it escalates, EMP is just the next step in that phase. Nobody has to fire a bullet. Nobody has to scramble jets. Nobody needs to sail aircraft carrier fleet across the world. You can fight a war in the gray zone. And that, all our military members know this, our generals know this. That is where the future wars are going to be fought, okay? So this idea that, you know, a grid down situation isn't very likely. We're speeding towards there. We're speeding towards that cliff, 100 miles an hour, and it's not talked about a lot. That revelation by Michael Mabey, the information, and it's all footnoted. You can read all the reports. It's 200 something pages long if you want to read the whole thing. Just lays it out in detail. It's insane. JSHP and Doubletree Systems, owned by XJ Group, which is owned by the communist government. The guy that's the CEO of both those companies, that's directly involved with the transformer that we confiscated, all the transformers that are coming into our country, and the company that's developing grid monitoring software and automation for they're owned by the Chinese government, and they're in with NERC, they're in with EPRI, They're attending the meetings. They're partnering with and working on security standards and reviewing security standards with it's insane. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's covering it in the mainstream media. So anyways, I've gone a lot longer than I anticipated, as always, but so I'll just, as always, as I leave you all, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and let God do the rest. So take care, enjoy your Labor Day, and I'll be back.